Good evening, Gabby.
Good evening, TC, and welcome all to our weekly podcast, Terry Currans, the Curran View, with the Idol of Hillsborough, Mr. Terry Curran. And if you're listening free to the first half on either Acast or Spotify, you can follow the links on our socials and access the full podcast via either Apple or become a Patreon. All the w's.patreon.com/SRBmedia. You can follow the podcast on Twitter at Curran View, or on Facebook, the Curran View, or join the group, which is over 3,000 members strong now. Thanks so much for your support. It's greatly appreciated. Steady away, TC. I'm doing this tonight in the front room, watching Blues with the sound down, and my mad kitten to my right-hand side, who's absolutely crackers.
Well, I'm in the room for a change. I've got a bit of cold coming on,
Yeah, you
and I've
sound
got volume down. So we're both in same predicament tonight. So good.
Yeah, you're sounding a bit rough. So what game are you watching?
Birmingham's got 1-0 up.
Have they?
Yeah.
I don't know what telly you're watching, but I'm just watching the build-up now. So, oh, no, poor. Hold on, I'll just talk. It looks like Chong at back flick, that fella from West Ham on loan, and yeah, you're absolutely spot on. Is it Scotty Hogan? Yes, Scotty. He's on fire at the moment, isn't he? It just shows you what John Eustace has done. He's called him in from the cold. He's a player that's always scored goals at whatever level that he's played. He's been loved, and he's absolutely loving scoring goals at St Andrews and elsewhere for Birmingham City. So, yeah, Blues, you're right, have gone 1 up against Swansea, steady away.
How long have I been telling you about? I mean, I've seen it. I've been at enough football clubs. I've been at enough football clubs to see it.
Yeah.
Madison is playing as well as anyone in midfield.
Yep.
And he's not getting a look in, and you're a big advocate for him to go.
Yep.
But Southgate don't fancy him, and that's.
Yeah.
I tell Jock and I tell Tom, they'll say it must be a bad player if he can't get it. I said, Jock, it's nothing to do whether he's a good, bad, or indifferent player. If that manager or that coach does not like you for some unknown reason, you're never going to get in. Choose how hard you work and how hard you try. But you have to work hard because you never know who's watching you.
Absolutely spot on. And Gareth does pick his 26. He can name any 23 in a match day squad, but he's got the luxury of taking 3 extra players. I'm guessing he'll take 3 injured players rather than 3 fit players. And my guess, if I was a betting man as well, I wouldn't.
He'll take 6 full-backs.
Yeah, we'll do. Yeah, we'll take as many as what he possibly can.
Unbelievable. That is not only unbelievable, it's completely stupid.
It is, yeah. It's
How long
incompetent.
How long are they there for? A month?
Yeah, about a month, and it starts on the 20th.
So you're going to take 6, and that's what he'll do.
Yeah.
6 full-backs.
Yeah.
Near mine, you can play here, you can play there. 3's enough. 3's enough.
Well, usually what you do when you're picking your squad, for God's sake, this cat, honestly, since we've had this cat, I do have a bit of sympathy for Kurt Zuma. Honestly, this damn little kitten is a beautiful thing, but he's an absolute nut job. He's scratching the telly. He loves to get up by the telly and watch the football. But yeah, I mean, in old money, what you used to do is you took 2 players for every position, didn't you? So, you'd have 3 goalkeepers, because that's what you take, 3 goalkeepers, and then 2 right backs, 2 left backs.
Well, being funny, why would you need 3 goalkeepers?
Well, they take the goalkeeper.
I know, but I understand what you're telling me. I understand what anybody tells me.
Yeah,
but why would you take 3 goalkeepers?
Well, I suppose, and you're right. Because
you tell me one football club or one world team, national team, what goes, and barring giving, if they're qualified, giving that backup goalkeeper a game, how many times do you see goalkeepers are injured?
Well, I'll give you an example. 1970, Gordon Banks. When Banks couldn't
I tell you what, they were 2-0 up, and
Benetti Catty was playing in goal, but say for instance Peter Benetti then got injured and Gordon Banks had got food poisoning, they wouldn't have had a goalkeeper. So
Yeah, but
I guess that's
Gabby,
why they
Gabby,
take three
let me
goals.
tell you about all that.
Yeah.
And there'll be a little bit to that, which is true.
Yeah.
Right? Probably South America, that type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But in general, right, they'll give any excuse he's got a slight knock, we're going to give him. They're just giving him a rest.
Yeah.
Why do people fall for it? I don't know. I just do not know. There's no reason to take three goalkeepers. That's my opinion.
Yeah.
Everybody else has a different opinion.
Mm-hmm. But again, going back to with this squad, he is able to take 26, not 23. So, and again, I think you're absolutely right. It will go top heavy on defenders rather than if a manager you look at Brazil, for instance. Brazil have already named their 26, and it really is top heavy with forwards. And you look at Brazil, you think, wow, some of the forwards that they've got to pick with and from. But again, the different philosophies of managers.
On that, but you know the difference on that, don't you? It's like Manchester City.
Yeah.
You know when you can dominate and keep the ball.
Absolutely.
That's why they have forwards and midfield players.
Yeah.
Reason why it's the English coaches, and yes, we've had foreign coaches, but Capello is a defensive coach anyway. Italians have always been defensive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So that is, that's what it is. English coaches are more fearful of getting beat 3 or 4-0, and they don't want to get embarrassed. Everybody has a different opinion.
Yeah.
I've seen it. I have seen what they do.
Yeah. You're absolutely spot on. And in this manager, he's gone into tournaments and
he's woke. I'll say it, man. He's woke.
Yeah, he absolutely.
He does what the political correct wants him to do.
Absolutely, and he's demonstrated that he's a very negative manager. He always will play for. I wouldn't say he plays for a draw, but he's very cautious. He's very conservative, and my opinion is England will never win anything under Southgate. And I would have sacked him by now. Never been a Southgate fan. Never will be. My shout would be James Maddison. Not just would be on the plane, but he would be in the starting 11. But I'm guessing that he won't be taking him. But again, we will know on Thursday at 2 o'clock when Southgate names his England squad. Magic moments, TC. What have you sourced for us this week? There's been some fabulous moments, and of course, FA Cup round 1 as well, which was very exciting.
There's been some great magic moments, really. Well, there is every week, to be honest. That Amaron had a third or fourth goal. The pass through were absolutely sublime. But I'm going for Tillemans against my old club, Everton.
Brilliant.
Where he's got everything right. He's flicked it up, got his body in line with it, and is it a volley? The keeper in the world could have saved it.
Yeah. Do you think
everything about it was sublime?
Do you think he's going for his own goal of the season? Because it looks as though
he has scored some crackers.
It looks like the Tillemans goal of the season. And you're right, he scored some spectacular goals. I think he's a tremendous footballer as well.
Oh, he's a good player.
Performances, got to say, well done to Aston Villa, beating Manchester United 3-1. Very composed performance, bossed it from the get-go. It does help when you go 2 goals up early doors. I get that. In games, Villa have started strongly, haven't scored, and as the game's gone on, this cat's eating me books.
Well, since Gerrard went, they've won 2 out of the 3.
Yeah.
A 4-0 and a 3-1, and got beat 4-0 at Newcastle. Newcastle are playing exceptionally well at the moment in time.
Absolutely.
But you wouldn't think a team of Gerrard's, a team who Gerrard manages or coaches, wouldn't want to play for him. But it looks as though that some of those players definitely didn't want to play for him.
It certainly looks a different Aston Villa under Unai Emery. What's his Unai Emery? That's his right name, isn't it? Yeah. Who had a decent spell, let's be truthful, when he was manager of Arsenal. But again, it's different levels, isn't it? Arsenal under Wenger were always in the Champions League. They were always in FA Cup finals. I think he won, Arsenal won 7 FA Cups under Arsene Wenger. So,
Probably
they
didn't
were
give him a
spoiled.
chance, did they?
No, I don't. I think you're right. I don't think they did. And that's what happens when a legend leaves. Same as Sir Alex Ferguson. It's very difficult for the next managers coming in because the expectation is just so much greater,
Well, how
where
do
at
you
Villa
better
it
that?
isn't.
How do you
Well,
better Ferguson's record?
you don't. I mean, Cloughy had that problem at Leeds when Don Revie said, "Well, how'd you better what I did?" And there is a grain of truth. How do you better what managers, legendary managers, have done?
Leave
And it's
behind.
very, very difficult. I also picked Yuri Teleman's goal for Leicester against Everton. Great result for Leicester, by the way. Connor Wickham's goal from the halfway line for Forest Green
Oh,
in the FA Cup. And also, I'd like to give a special mention to Alvechurch, who beat Cheltenham away 2-1 and have now drawn Forest Green away in the second round proper of the FA Cup. I'm guessing that will be a TV game because they are the lowest ranked side still left in there, Alvechurch. A brilliant result in a local derby, almost, Alvechurch and then Cheltenham. I'm guessing that Marcus wasn't very happy. I ain't heard from him, but Cheltenham would be very sore to be knocked out. But Alvechurch were good value for that result and look a decent team.
yeah, you see, with the FA Cup, there's always going to be shocks.
Mm.
But there'll be more shocks in today's FA Cup games because everybody thinks of Liverpool or thinks Manchester City or Man United that they can chop and change the team, even
Yeah.
at that level.
Yeah.
So,
Absolutely.
and what managers got to look at is you're only as good as your last game. Any
Yeah.
manager,
Yeah.
any manager. So what I would be doing if I was a manager and I were playing Alvechurch, if we got beat by playing his best team, well, at least I've given it a go.
Yeah.
Try, because at the end of the day, you'll still get the sack whether you play a weakened team or a full team, full strength team.
Absolutely. I mean, we've covered this many times on the podcast where you look at the league championship in old money, and we still call the league championship the Premier League. So when you win that, you are the champions of England. There's only one team that can win that. Now, the next best thing is the FA Cup and then the League Cup in our domestic competitions. Yeah, I get that some clubs are playing in Europe, so they've got the Champions League, the Europa League, and this Conference League now. But for the life of me, I cannot understand why teams do not put a full strength side out in the cup competitions, because as a footballer, that's realistically the only thing that you can win is a cup, because the league's almost sewn up because Man City are that good.
If you look at the League Cup and the FA Cup, right? I mean, Swindon got to that cup final. Southampton's got that. Other teams have got. I bet you if you look at these last 20 years or since Premier League, I don't think there's been or there may have been one, if that, what's got to a final, a League Cup final or an FA Cup final.
Yeah.
Whereas before, early 70s, 60s, teams have got chances. Now, I mean, like Sheffield Wednesday will go and play a weak team against another non-deplumed team type of thing. You think they'll go for a good cup run, get some more money behind them, get the momentum going, get the atmosphere going. And the clubs, the fans, if the fans are happy, the players will be happy. They don't want to be playing under pressure when fans are moaning and groaning.
Absolutely. And as a football player, you set out to play football at the highest level.
Listen, I guarantee you at Doncaster Rovers,
we
know we're not going to win it, but I'll guarantee you, I know I did, and I know other players in that team, and not everybody, because everybody's different. The players in that team will think that they can win the FA Cup.
Yeah.
And I know it's nearly impossible to do it, but having that belief that you can win it is a good thing to have.
Absolutely, and every kid sets out on that mission, on that journey of winning something, and playing in a cup
A cup
final, and
playing
to
at Wembley.
absolutely to have that taken away must be so frustrating for the player. Because
I played for 15 years
yeah,
professional football,
mm,
and I think I got knocked out, but it's only when we were lower down,
yeah,
first round, and it's so disheartening when cup comes back round again and you're not in at, and everybody else is playing and you're not.
yeah.
Whereas league, there's a game every week, isn't there?
Yeah, but again,
Minimum,
if we roll it forward now, Terry Curran, that played in the 1979 League Cup final for Southampton against Nottingham Forest, wouldn't have got there because Southampton would have rested Terry Curran in the League Cup.
Or one or two other players. You're right, 100% right.
So the game now is even worse for footballers because it's just that trying to stay in the Premier League with all the money that's involved, and it just knocks the shine off it.
They brought that attitude into our game where, like at school sports, it's not about winning, it's competing.
Yeah.
And they brought that mentality into our sport. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's weird. It's weird how it's all switched and gone the other way.
Absolutely. Let's switch and have it go back the other way. Whereas every game that we play, we want to win.
It's competitive.
The cups, yeah, absolutely. The cups are just as important as the league. And in many instances, the cups are more important than the league because you've got a chance of winning the cup. You've got next to no chance of winning the league. So let's hope that in the FA Cup this year, we do start playing stronger sides. And I've said it before on the podcast, when you're playing a lesser side as well, for them players to be playing against a full strength Liverpool or Man United team and rubbing shoulders against them players, they deserve it. They've gone through games of football, they've scraped through, they've battled through, they've won through. They deserve to have that moment that some of them players will never have that moment ever again in their career. It is their cup final.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, we've mentioned it on our podcast before that Alan Ball put a piece of turf into my Wembley turf into the tanker we got. He said, put that in your garden because you may never get here again. And you're right about every. You may never get a second chance at anything.
Yeah. And again, it's that experience of an older pro like Borley that's seen it, and and that's why it's so important to have them older pros and listen to them because they are right, and you can't put an old head on a young pair of shoulders. But Book Corner TC in association with myfootballbooks.com, Andy always sends us his recommendation. And this week his recommendation is Tony Waddington, director of A Working Man's Ballet by John Leonard. I had the pleasure a couple of years ago of cutting a podcast with John about the book and about Tony Waddington, and you can access that podcast on the usual platforms that you access your podcasts from. But Tony Waddington, what a football man, what a football manager. And on this day, Wednesday the 9th of November 1924, Tony Waddington, what the God, was born. Alan Hudson always says of Tony, like a second father. Was manager of Stoke City for 17 years. That will never, ever happen again. What a manager. Did you ever have any contact or any dealings with Tony Waddington too?
Yeah, a few times at Stoke, I come across him because obviously when he retired, he were always at the ground, always at the games. So lovely bloke, lovely bloke, and I love the way how his teams play football, even with a team like Stoke. And having said that, when they brought players in like Banks and Hudson, it gave them that little bit more eliteness about them. But they did try to play. Well, they didn't try. They did play some great football when Hudson and them were there.
They certainly.
Greenoffs, a lot of them, brilliant.
Yeah, they certainly did, and almost won the league championship in 74-75 season, and famously in the 73-74 season, Alan Hudson's first goal for Stoke City was against Leeds United.
Well, what a good goal! What a piece, Swansea.
Oh, okay. I've gone upstairs now. I've been kicked out of the front room. The wife has just come back from her Zumba, and my television don't work. I was watching Birmingham the other night, and the telly I thought Blues are playing some decent stuff, and the telly just went blank. I thought, flipping marvellous, ain't it? But there you go. Second up in our trilogy this week is a podcast that I'm going to be making in a couple of weeks' time with Gary Edwards, author of this book, Revy's Plan for Leeds United, Summer of '63. And on the front, there's a picture of Don Revie, Johnny Giles, or John Giles, and Billy Bremner. John will be our star of the 70s a little bit later in the podcast. But what a summer that was in 1963. I'm looking forward to reading the book, to having a chat with Gary, who wrote the book, because that was when Leeds United, that spark happened. And what a spark, and what a that blue touch paper was lit there, and my word, what a touch paper to light. Reeves Leeds United, arguably to this day, still the greatest British side I've ever seen.
Yeah, I must admit, they were unbelievable. I think if he'd have gone and got Gordon Banks,
Yeah,
they'd have won. They'd have cleaned up. They'd have cleaned up in those 10, 12 years when they were successful.
yeah,
I mean, so unlucky not to win a European Cup.
twice.
So unlucky not to win a double couple of more times.
Yeah,
So unlucky not to win an FA Cup more times, and so unlucky not to win a league championship. So they were a phenomenal team, and they were the best footballing team I saw up until your Liverpool's under Shanks and Paisley, Clough's football, Forest, Derby. But they were brilliant. That Bremner, Giles, Clark, Hunter, Charlton, Reaney, Cooper, Bremner, Eddie Gray, Mick Jones, and who was the other one? Peter Lorimer.
well, we could just name them 1 to 11, couldn't we? Either Gary Sprake or then David Harvey, Paul Reaney, Terry Cooper, Jack Charlton, Norman Hunter, Peter Lorimer, Billy Bremner, John Giles, Eddie Gray, Mick Jones, and Alan Clark. That was their 1 to 11. What a fantastic side!
Oh, what sub?
Eh?
Oh, what sub?
Well, Mick Bates was sub quite often, wasn't he?
Sub a few times. Terry Yorth.
Yeah, Terry Yorth was another sub.
They was the ones. And by the way, we missed one of the best players off.
Who was that?
Paul Mainley.
Yes, absolutely. Paul Madeley was another one, a Rolls Royce of a player. In fact, Brian Little and Alan Hudson both said of not debut, but certainly the first time that they played against Paul Madeley, almost felt like packing the game in, because Madeley was just that good. Villa played Leeds United.
Anywhere, didn't they?
Oh, absolutely.
In midfield, back four.
Yeah, he played. Well, it would have been centre half when Villa played against him. And Brian Little said to me on the podcast that I've done, you can get all the podcasts that we've made on, if you become a patron, all the w's.patreon.com/SRBmedia. And Brian says to me, I went home, I was in tears. I realised how difficult the first division was going to be, and people, fans and players, don't realise the difference in levels when you go up from that is now the Championship to the Premier League, and back then in those days the second division to the first division. And when you come up against class players like Madeley and Leeds United in your first game, you think, oh my God, what a baptism.
Yeah. And the thing is, a lot of that and all is when you're playing against these, sometimes some players think that they shouldn't be on. No, they shouldn't be on the same pitch.
Yeah.
But they admire him.
Yes. Yeah.
They admire him, really. Idols who they admire when they're watching him on TV.
They're fanboying, aren't they? Yeah, absolutely too. Absolutely. And the final book in the trilogy this week, again, staying in the ballpark of Leeds United 1963. He joined slightly before that the wee barra Bobby Collins, a book that's written by David Safer. Bobby Collins, arguably the most instrumental football player ever to be signed for Leeds United
If
Football
you
Club.
think Billy Bremner and Johnny Giles were hard, he was twice harder than a pair of them put together.
Yeah. And he was only about 5'3", 5'4"
Yeah.
maximum, wasn't he?
Great player, but on that football field, he'd kick his mother near mind his dad.
He'd kick his granny.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember listening to John on a YouTube clip, and he said he'd have gone through his nan. That's what Bobby Collins was like. Lovely guy. Did you have much dealings with Bobby? Did you know Bobby?
I played in one, on Sunday mornings.
Yeah.
When players retire.
Yes.
They have what they call it when they're raising money for charity game.
Yeah, charity. Yeah.
Charity game. And I played at Leeds.
Right.
And I played. Oh, I forget what I was playing for. But obviously we're playing for Leeds Old Boys.
Mm.
Oh, and he rattled me, and I thought, Jesus, what? We had a game on Tuesday, and Jack said to me, "Have 5 minutes and come off."
Yeah.
But you don't. You see, you want to stop on.
Yeah.
But I met him a couple of times, but I played against him only in a charity match, and I'm telling you, he even took that serious.
Yeah. Players don't lose that streak, do they?
No.
When they go, it's a friendly. I'm sorry. There's no such with a player like Bobby Collins. There is no such thing as a friendly or a charity.
Training sessions, charity games, exhibition games.
Yeah.
Those people are the same in any game.
Absolutely.
And they get frustrated with the players if they're not going to be getting the mindset to it.
Absolutely, TC. So that's the 3 books that we're going to feature in Book Corner in association with myfootballbooks.com. And just before we do leave that, I want to give a special mention to A Marriage Made in Football, the story of Graham and Jane Hawkins from Kirsty Hawkins, who kindly sent me the book. I'm starting to read that. I'm going to be cutting a podcast with Kirsty. And while we're still on the book, just before we go out into Strange But True, I want to give a shout out to a young lady, Louise Cobbold Art. Now, I'm sure that you're not familiar with her.
Don't tell me that's the daughter of the guy at Ipswich.
I don't know. I've no idea. I don't think so. She's a Wolverhampton Wanderers supporter.
No, he was the owner of Ipswich, but go on.
Oh, okay.
Anyway, Cobbold.
She drew the picture on the front of the said book, A Marriage Made in Football. Because I thought, well, clearly it's a painting. And so you follow threads, don't you, on social media? And it led me to Louise. I looked at her Facebook page, her art page, and it's like, oh my days. There's a wonderful picture of Diego Maradona. There's one that she's just drawn of Yaya Toure. And I showed Tom, and he said, that ain't a painting, that's a photograph. No, it's a painting, son. You're having me at it now. Her paintings are unbelievable. So have a look at the guys. Louise Cobbold, that's 2 B's, O-L-D art. Louise Cobbold art. Check her out. Check out her page. She does some brilliant sports people drawings of, paintings of, and you can go onto the website and buy them. They're absolutely fantastic. And that one of Diego Maradona, I would say 1982. It looked like Diego. Do you remember when he played in Spain, España, 1982 World Cup? It looked as though it was a painting of Diego from them days. Strange but true, TC. 12th of July 1953, Hamburg's Volkspark Stadium, originally built in 1925, was refurbished and reopened with a game between Hamburg and Birmingham. The stadium is not actually in Hamburg, but in Altona.
What's the connection with Birmingham and Hamburg?
I don't know. And I looked at that, exactly what I thought. What's the connection with Birmingham and Hamburg? And I honestly don't know. But if you note, it does say Birmingham and not Birmingham City. Now, in those days, after the war, I think it was 1946,
SRBMedia.